Hello everyone and welcome along to action here from TGP2, rounds number 13 and 14 of the season as we arrive in Hungary and then on to Spain. I'm Ginger Andy and joining me in the commentary box tonight we have Dan the Man. We've got the cars just starting their final qualifying laps. Apologies for the delay. I've been trying to get rid of some of the echo in this mic. Whether it works or not, I'm not too sure. But Dan, let's jump straight into it with Jack Pearson going on a lap here.
Yeah, good evening, Andy. Yeah, it's looking forward to tonight's races in Hungary and Spain. Two proper circuits. There's no roundabouts in sight, and hopefully we're going to get two great races. And as you say, you've got Jack Pearson currently in second place, about to set his final lap of the session. But Mike Noon and Luca are both on out laps. Luca left him very, very late. I'm not sure if he was actually going to make the line. It's 22 seconds to go. But Jack Pearson's invalidated his final run.
Yeah, he's invalidated his final run, and Mike Noon is not going to get round in time to do a lap. So Mike Noon, his session is over, as is Jack Pearson's. We've got Red LMR starting a lap right now. Is he going to get to the line in time? Yes, he is. So Red starts a lap. We've got Luca Chiapelli, who will not get there in time. In the minute, it's Jack Pearson on top. Chris Johnson at the minute is out there starting a flying lap as well. We've got Dom Smith pushing. But apologies, folks, for being late. It appears you've missed all the action by the looks of it. No one on a late lap, really, apart from maybe Dom Smith and Red.
Yeah, I mean, we were late, but these drivers have been late as well. How have they both managed to... How has Luca and Mike Noon both managed to misjudge that so badly? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. Dom Smith, by the way, setting up the timesheets, setting them alight, going purple in a few areas of the lap. Are we on for something very special here? He's about 1.5 seconds away from pole position is the Mercedes driver as he makes his way around that long winding final corner and heads up for the start-finish line. Dom Smith heading up the line. What's it going to be? It's a 1:14.8 and it's a place in the top 6 for Dom Smith.
And Red LMR is invalidated, so I'm not sure how many more people are going to improve. Chris Johnson's also invalidated, so is Blair Grills and Nell Jack. Yeah, I don't think we're really going to have anybody crossing the line here to at the very end of the session. That's it.
Yeah, that is it. Well, I've got to apologise, folks, for being slightly late. We were trying to get the audio right, but in doing that, we've ended up missing the majority of the laps. We thought we'd get a late flurry with 2 minutes to go, but Mike Noon didn't come out in time. Chiapelli didn't come out in time. Jack Pearson invalidated his lap, and Red invalidated his lap. And we've got a very strange situation where absolutely no one, with the exception of Dom Smith, improved, Dan. Incredible.
Very, very strange circumstances. But I suppose as we're about to wait for this race then to get underway, we'll just update you with the championship. And Luca is leading the way on 205 points, although of course he starts fourth for this race. And then Jack Pearson and Mike Noon are both locked together on 184 points. So the front row occupied by those two.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out, but there is your qualifying session results finale from the Hungaro ring here for round number 13 of the championship. It's Mike Noon who starts this race from pole position with that 1 minute 13.9. Jack Pearson is second, 1 minute 14.232, 3 tenths off. Red LMR is third with a 1 minute 14.3. Then it's Mr. Chiapelli, the championship leader, as you say, Dan, in fourth on a 1:14.4. Bossman Sean is fifth. Dom Smith with that late improvement to sixth. It's Chris Thurgood in seventh. You can't see that on your screens there. Chris Johnson eighth. Ninth is Baza. 10th is Blair Grills. Outside the top 10, we've got Neil Jack, Mr. John, Alex Zaffro, M. Shep, Sir Tom Penguin, Indecisive, Red Bull Kim, Dark Shadow, and I think it was Sam Hickman at the bottom who didn't get a lap in.
Yeah, Sam Hickman had a qualifying ban, I believe. Not great for him, but that's Mike Noon's fifth pole of the season. He's 3 clear of 4 other drivers. Luca, Sam Hickey, Sean and Jack Pearson, who are then all on 2. So Mike really dominating qualifying this season, it seems. But yeah, Sam Hickey had a quali ban, which is not great for him in his championship hunt. He's still sort of hanging about in there in 5th place on 138 points. Didn't have a great race in Vietnam, and he's got his work cut out to fight through the field around this track of all tracks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know what you mentioned there about Mike Noon is so crucial. We spoke last week at length about consistency and how Luca got himself there. Not the quickest on raw speed, but just consistent throughout the season. We know how mental these TGP2 races can be. Mike Noon, all the poles, but he's not in the lead of the championship. Let's see if he can convert pole to victory here. As we're about to get underway in TGP2, we're at the Hungaroring, the tight, twisty circuit that reminds you, just like Monaco without the barriers. The 5 red lights are coming on, and we're about to go racing in the Hungaroring, and round number 13 in TGP2 is underway. It's Mike Noon on pole position, who cuts across immediately. Jack Pearson going down the inside into turn 1. They're going to be side by side, I think, into the braking zone, but Mike Noon breaks that little bit later and is well ahead and clear of Jack Pearson in second, with Bossman Sean third, and Red Elamar is down to 4th. A flying start from the Irishman. Bossman Sean is flowing up to 3rd. We've got all sorts of carnage at the back, with Chris Johnson facing the wrong way, Dan.
And it's a safety car. Safety car is out immediately then. I think Dark Shadow's got no front wing at the very back. But Mike Noon deploying the Schumacher chop at the start there. And Jack Pearson, it looked like he sort of brushed the wall slightly. I don't think he has any damage. But what a close moment that was. An immediate safety car. Bossman Sean had a great start up into 3rd place. Red LMR, the new driver for tonight, who promised to watch out for him with his pace. And he's has lost a place, but he is still in 4th. And Dom's down in 10th. Sam Hickey up to 9th from the back.
Wow! Wow! 10th place gain in less than 10 corners for Sam Hickman. That is an incredible start he's had there, up to 9th position. Wow! I thought I had a good start last night. I gained 4 at the start. This man's just put me in the shade. 10 places gained for Sam Hickman. But it's Mike Noon at the front, Jack Pearson 2nd, and Bossman Sean getting those 2 places up to 3rd. Red, as we say, down 1, and Chris Thurgood up a couple. Let's see who comes into the pits then. Oh, Mike Noon in, Jack Pearson in, and they'll be going off of those soft compound tyres, Dan, and you would think that they'll go straight onto the mediums to the end of the Grand Prix from here.
Most likely, yeah. It's a long way, though. 18-lap race. So Bossman Sean stayed out.
That's a set of hards. Sorry, Dan. That's a set of hards going on. Mike Noon's Red Bull racing car. So here comes Nooney down the pit lane, and a fresh set of the hard compound tyre going on that Red Bull. We've got Chris Thurgood going to softs. I presume he started on medium, so he'll go straight back to the medium tyre after the stop. Sam Hickman onto medium. Jack Pearson, interestingly, must have been held for an awful long time. He's down to 10th.
He is indeed, yeah, he's down to 10th, he's on the medium tyres, so Sam Hickey is ahead of the driver who started in 2nd place on the grid on lap 2.
Yeah, so just to be absolutely clear, Sam Hickman, who was on the back row, is now, after 1 lap, ahead of a man that was on the front row. Work that one out, folks. That's TGP2, and it can be pretty crazy. Wow. So, lap 2, Bossman Sean is now the race leader. Let's just get the stops graphic up for you. There you go. Bossman Sean, Red LMR, Mr. Chiapelli, Baza, Sir Tom Penguin, Red Bull Kim. They have yet to make a pit stop. Mike Noon has stopped. Everyone from 7th down, you would think, will run to the end of this race, apart from maybe Chris Thurgood, who I believe has put on a set of soft tyres, strangely.
Yeah, but Chris did start on the softs as well, so just a strange call by Chris. I'm guessing, well, he's going to have to pit again in this race. So he's gone from softs to softs. A bit strange.
You'd expect them to come straight in now, wouldn't you? Stick a set of mediums on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I suppose he'll then fall, but he will fall right to the very back, of course. But let's see if any of the guys at the front will come in this time round. Will Bossman Sean decide to go for it now? No, he won't. We've seen Bossman Sean have a series of incidents over this season, and we'll see if he can make the most of having the lead at this safety car restart. And I don't think anybody else is coming in. Chris isn't coming in. No.
Yeah. Very strange decision, you may say, from Chris Thurgood, but I presume a mistake in the pit stop initially, and he's just thought, well, the mistake's been made now, I'm just going to stay out there and see what happens. And there could be another safety car, I suppose, but I mean, that's really what he's got to hope for now, because it's not going to work out at all well. But Jack Pearson potentially maybe had some damage then. I mean, that could be the only reason he's dropped so far down.
Yeah, could possibly. After that instance at the start, I suppose. But that is the first pit box, isn't it, the Mercedes? So it is quite easy to get held up there with all the drivers coming in the pit lane. So I have a feeling that might be what caused it.
Yeah, it could be the reason for Jack Pearson's demise then, dropping from the front row to 10th. Obviously, a few cars in front have yet to pit, and that's the top 6 really. But I mean, let's discuss the strategy then. I mean, obviously, in any normal circumstance, you would go soft to medium, even if it's lap 1. Do you think that is true here as well at the Hungaroring. We know it's tight, we know it's twisty, we know it's quite hard on tyres. Is it best to go medium or best to go hard? What do you think?
Well, I mean, at the end of the race, your tyres will be, I think, if you're on the medium, the tyres are definitely going to be in the 50s, probably 60s maybe even at this rate. I mean, it is a long race, it's a long way to go. So I honestly, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Mike Noonan, I suppose, has played it safe, hasn't he, with the switch to the hards. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Whether the guys at the front can pull away and then use the great tyre life at the later stage of the race to come back at these guys at the front, such as Mike Noonan, who just pitted, who's got his pit stop out the way.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be one to watch. It's just going to be a waiting game, I suppose. Well, will Mike Noonan be defending as hard as he was from Jack Pearson later on in this race down into that turn one? It was like Barrichello against Schumacher, wasn't it? As we get racing once again. The safety car peels into the pits, and on lap number 3 out of 18, we are back underway. It's Bossman Sean, the Irishman, leading us across the line to get us underway with the debutant Red LMR in behind and Chiapelli in third. Down towards that turn one, we're on board with Red MLR. He's having a look, but not close enough as Red Bull Kim goes down the inside of Sir Tom Penguin. Sir Tom Penguin versus Red Bull Kim. This is what we love to see. Red Bull Kim, the Danish Viking, going for a move, but he can't quite get a move done on Sir Tom Penguin, who holds on to that 5th place. But Mike Noonan is right behind the net race leader, ready to pounce on any mistakes from Red Bull Kim.
And Chris, there got Mike pounce on Mike Noonan as well. He got very close to him at turn 1, but can't get it, and has to back up there as well. Oh, as Sir Tom Penguin goes off slightly.
Kim's wide, and through goes Mike Noonan up into 6th place, and off goes the Danish Viking into a trip, not into the sea, but into the runoff area. And Mike Noonan says thank you very much and takes that place, as does Chris Thurgood, as does Sam Hickman, and now Jack Pearson has got his way through as well, I believe.
Oh, it's such a shame, isn't it, for Red Bull Kim? He runs very wide there as well. So Bossman Shaw keeps his lead then, and it's a second gap already from Red LMR. But Mike Noonan now is really going to try and get past Tom Penguin ASAP, and he's going to try it now. He's been hit! He's round!
Oh, disaster for Mike Noonan, and we said it at the top of the show, didn't we, before the start of the race? Will it be another race where Paul is not converted to victory? And it certainly seems like that. He's gone down. Penguin, he's gone for a spin, and Mike Noonan drops all the way down the field to 15th place. Disaster in his hopes for a World Championship here, but he's going to try and bounce back immediately, going side by side with Alex Safro down towards turn 1. Who's going to be on top? Safro, go on.
Sorry, it's Sam and Jack were battling further ahead for 7th place as Jack trying to get back ahead but couldn't manage to do it. As Mike Noonan got past Alex?
I think he did. Mike Noonan up to 14th. We're now watching Red Bull Kim battle away with Neil Jack in 9th and 10th position at the minute. Red Bull Kim using that overtake, getting in the slipstream. Not close enough to go for a move as Blair Grouse lines him up behind in 11th place. All sorts of action going on here as we try to figure out who's made a stop and who's not. The top 5 so far yet to stop. Red Bull Kim, the only other driver yet to stop, but he's falling down through the field.
Some of the drivers literally just 20 minutes ago were joking, saying that Mike Noonan was definitely going to get himself involved in an instance around Hungary, and that is exactly what has happened.
Disaster for Mike Noonan, it has to be said, as Dom Smith now getting involved in the battle with Indecisive as Blair Grylls runs a little bit wide. Plenty of action to watch here in the midfield as further up the road, I believe there's been... That's Chris Thurgood's got ahead of Sir Tom Penguin, but we'll stick with this. There's all kinds of action at the minute in the midfield. All these guys have stopped, so I suppose this is more for position, more valuable than watching a man that hasn't stopped be overtaken by Chris Thurgood. Round the final corner, all kinds of action. It's Indecisive across the line, 11th, Blair Grouse 12th, and this man, Dom Smith, in 13th, but he's got a very angry Red Bull driver at the hands of Mike Noonan behind, having a little look at Dom Smith. As Smith looks up the inside of Blair Grouse, thinks better of it, and Mike Noonan in behind, desperate to make up for lost time.
But it's a real shame that Chris Thurgood has put the softs on again, because he would be in a net lead now, I suppose. But really, if anything right now, it's Sam Hickey. But Jack Pearson is right behind him still. But I tell you what, imagine if Sam Hickey can win this race from having a quali ban, as he just nudges Tom Penguin there, looking to escape damage.
Yeah, this is what we need to see, and we're watching it now. Good spot, Dan, as Sir Tom Penguin continues to hold up what is essentially the net leaders as they make their way through the tight, twisty middle sector of the lap. We're on board with Sam Hickman as he gets ever closer to the back of Sir Tom Penguin. Go through the left-hander into this tight right, and now down to this short straight where you can make a move if you're brave, but not brave enough or close enough with Sam Hickman on this occasion. We're now at 1/3 race distance, lap 6 out of 18, and we're no clearer to knowing who's going going to win the race as Sam Hickman gets ever so close to the back of Sir Tom Penguin, almost damages the wing there. Sir Tom Penguin's so slow at the minute, and Jack Pearson is ready to pounce on any error that Sam Hickman might make. Across the line they go onto lap 7 now, out of 18, and it's Jack Pearson still shadowing Sam Hickman, but he's not close enough as they reach the brake pedal. Oh, he's very close now. Down the inside he goes. Sir Tom Penguin slides. Sam Hickman stuck on the curb, and Jack Pearson pulls alongside and takes what is a net lead in this race. Back up the inside goes Sam Hickman. He's gone too deep, and off he goes, and Jack Pearson's now through.
Wow, what a battle that was. So Jack finally gets ahead then. Luca's just pissed at the championship leader. He's down his 16th, but his tyres are several laps younger now, of course, as Dom is battling with Indecisive as well. They're getting very close together around turn 3.
Action everywhere you look, but Jack Pearson's not out of the woods yet. He needs to clear Sir Tom Penguin, and very quickly indeed, as these two are battling away. Sam Hickman, the youngster, showing a little bit of inexperience perhaps down at turn 2 or turn 3, whatever you want to call it, just diving in a little bit too late, running it in too hard. The chance was gone. He should have known it, and he dropped away from Jack Pearson. But thanks to Jack not being able to clear Sir Tom Penguin in the middle sector, he might get another bite at the cherry, Dan.
Yes, he might indeed, and Dom has finally got past Indecisive. Chris Johnson's just behind him as well. A Bossman Sean, the race leader, pits.
Oh, big moment, sorry, for Sam Hickman as he was trying to get close to Jack Pearson, and that might have just blown all hope of making a move going down the start-finish straight, as we now have that pit stop from the race leader Bossman Sean. But here is Jack Pearson in the slipstream behind Sir Tom Penguin. He's going down the inside of Sir Tom Penguin, and he's past Sir Tom Penguin when they get to the braking zone for turn 1, and he puts a car between he and the man he's fighting today, Sam Hickman.
Bit of breathing space then for Jack Pearson, as we've seen with Bossman Sean has come out the pits in 7th place for Bossman Sean. So that's really good stuff for Bossman Sean in comparison to Luca, who's still down in 14th.
Yep, very, very, very important move that for Bossman Sean. Very good pit stop. He could be on for a really good result. We've got a yellow flag out there in sector 2, and I'm not sure.
It's Chris Thaygood. It's Chris Thaygood.
He's had a moment.
That's made it easy for Jack Pearson.
Yeah, it's getting ever easier for Jack Pearson now, as he moves up to 2nd place and puts a 2nd car between he and his rival Sam Hickman this afternoon, and things are falling into place for the man that started in the front row, Jack Pearson.
Although even if Sam Hickey doesn't win this race, if he still gets a 2nd or a 3rd, I think he would happily take it after that qualifying. He does have a penalty though, of course, as Lucas just got past Indecisive into 13th place now as well. So we're going to see now how much Luca can make his way through the field on these far younger tyres. 5 laps younger than the majority of the rest of the field ahead.
Yeah, he's going to have to put some work in as we finally have a pit stop from the race leader, Red LMR 56. Let's see what he rejoins then in relation to Bossman Sean. That could be an interesting one. I don't think he'll be too far behind. He'll be ahead of Blair Grills. He'll come out in 7th, I think. Here he comes down the start-finish straight. No, just behind Blair Grills and potentially behind Dom Smith into turn 1. Let's see. Oh, it's very, very close. And he's just ahead of Dom Smith. Vital move that for Red LMR. Gets ahead of some of that traffic. And now we can set about climbing up the order. Crucial move, Dan.
It was, and I think that actually helped Chris Johnson then also pass Dom as well. So Dom has got both of the Ferraris ahead of him now, as Jack Pearson then, after the pit stops now, is in the lead of this race. Sam Hickey gets past Tom Penguin for 3rd.
Yeah, crucial move then for Sam Hickey. Would have liked to have cleared Tom a little bit quicker, but it's not to be. It hasn't worked out.
Spun. Red LMR spun his debut drive, and now he is off for tier 5.
Yeah, disaster for Red LMR then, dropping down through the field as well. So his debut has come undone, and he's now behind quite a train of cars. A bit like what Mike Noon had to deal with. And Mike Noon, by the way, we haven't mentioned him for a while. He's all the way down in 18th place. He must have been off the road again.
Yeah, I think he pitted. I think he pitted again. I think he made another pit stop after that spin with this Tom Penguin, as Chris Thaygood has now left the session. He still hasn't pitted. So as Bossman Sean is about to try and get past Tom Penguin now, and it's going to be interesting to see if Bossman Sean can catch Jack Pearson for the win of this race on their 6 laps younger tyres.
Yeah, the 6 laps and an awful lot younger, isn't it? It's quite an amount to be have an advantage in terms of rubber. So Bossman Sean, really the man with a bit between his teeth. But as we say so often with Bossman Sean, it's the penalties, it's keeping things clean, and he's got penalties again today. So 3 seconds, so it's not the end of the world. Jack Pearson could more than easily pick penalties up himself, but you just get that fear with Bossman Sean. He's going to pick up another 2 or 3 himself.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I do get the feeling that we could still get another VSC or safety car in this race. It just feels like one of those kind of races. The strategy is totally throwing things up in the air. As Alex Afro spun, also at turn 5 at that curb. There's that horrible inside curb, which if you clip it, it'll just send you spinning.
Yeah, as Chris Thurgood joins back, Neil Jack's taking the place off him. So there you go, Chris Thurgood returns. He's not yet in the car yet, but Neil Jack is up to 5th place. And I've got to say, Neil Jack, he's having a pretty good afternoon, isn't he?
Yeah, it'd be a great result for Neil Jack if he can hold on to this. He's on the hard tyres, so he decides to play it safe with his pit stop as well, as Sir Tom Penguin finally pitched. So Neil Jack will be rose up into 4th now. Things
looking very good for him as Chris Thurgood's car, he's going to be raging about this. He's coming, well, not really, he had to pit anyway, so this is when he's going to make that pit stop. I think his car had already decided for him he was going to pit, but he's in the car now, and well, he'll serve that pit stop that he needed to make anyway. As Chiapelli lines up a move into turn 1 on Chris Johnson. Remember, this is the championship leader, who's, well, despite having a bit of a below par afternoon, he's still gaining massive points on Mike Noon, who's had a shocker. Not so on Jack Pearson, of course. But here we go. Chiapelli down this shot straight up towards turn 5. He's going to try and go right round the outside of Chris Johnson. You can forget about that one, Luca. That was never going to happen. And I'm glad he didn't go for it, because that could have ended in tears.
That is always a risky place, isn't it, to go for a move, especially when he was so close there, having to go round the outside. That would have been overtake of the season, I imagine, if he managed to pull that one off. But yeah, Mike Noonan looks like he could drop back massively in the championship right now. But Jack Pearson, at this rate, he's going to close in on Luca.
Yeah, he is. Apologies, folks, as Chris Johnson goes up the inside of Blair Grills. I don't seem to have the gap intervals at the minute. Hopefully we'll get that soon as Luca now tries to have a look at Blair Grills into the final corner. Rubs wheels, that's dangerous, and they touch together, and that could have been front wing damage quite easily for Chiapelli. Now sweeps around the outside, and Blair Grills sticks his nose in, and there's almost damage for that McLaren driver as he brushes the wall.
And Bossman Sean is fighting with Sam Hickey now. Bossman Sean is ahead. Bossman Sean is in 2nd place, and he could chase after Jack Pearson. Now he's 3 seconds is the gap, because he has that 3-second penalty as well. But if he can get ahead and get a gap with those tyres, he can win this.
And even, perhaps potentially, if Jack Pearson runs into trouble and starts picking up warnings as well. Bossman Sean, the very least he can do is apply some pressure to Jack Pearson. Dan, if you don't mind, could you give us an idea? Oh, there you go! I was just about to ask how far is Jack Pearson away from picking one of those up? And there you go! The answer is right now! And Bossman Sean is surely going to be hungry after that. He will now be knowing that Jack Pearson has a 3-second time penalty, and he's got a 3-second gap with 6 lap fresher tyres and 6 laps left to go. It's game on here in TGP2.
It really is game on, isn't it? We will watch that gap and we will see if it'll come down. It has to remain pretty stable for this lap. So if Jack can keep up that kind of pace, it will be okay for him. But, well, with such a big difference in terms of lifespan of the tyres, you have to say, I'd be surprised if Bossman Sean does not close right in towards the end of the race.
He's already got it under 3 seconds, 2.8 now as Chiapelli tries to recover from that awful opening stint in the Grand Prix. He's now pulling alongside Chris Johnson on the run to turn 1, but the problem is Chris Johnson's also got DRS, and he's also got a slipstream on Neil Jack. They're both going down the inside of Neil Jack. The first move was fine, Chiapelli's not so fine, but he still blasts alongside and into the side of Neil Jack and up a place and into 5th. He'll now try and go round the outside of Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson's a stern customer, he won't allow that, and he's now very, very wide as Chiapelli. Neil Jack might switch back down the straight and make the move back. Chiapelli defends like crazy. Neil Jack tries the outside, but he can't get through, and Chiapelli holds firm.
Wow, there's some brilliant battling going on here, isn't there? It's absolutely
fantastic. Oh, he's
gone! Oh!
He's gone big time. Chiapelli off the road. Neil Jack damage. Absolute chaos. Oh, heartbreak for Neil Jack, who's got serious wing damage now. And Chiapelli, the championship leader, is now down through the order and out of the World Championship points. And that is music to the ears of Jack Pearson and potentially the likes of Bossman Sean and Sam Hickman, who are falling out of this championship fight.
At this rate, Jack Pearson's going to be taking a lead of the championship at the end of this. Unbelievable.
Wild, wild. That is TGP2, folks. Anything can happen, and it usually does. Jack Pearson, though, we said that. He's now had this gap cut down by a further second. Bossman Sean is on a charge.
Yeah, it's a second in that lap, and a second in that lap. So Bosman Sean is closing in as Blair Grills gets into 5th place. Neljack's pitted. Obviously, he had that damage, didn't he, of course, from the incident with Chiapelli. It's got a yellow flag out, but is Red LMR going to make a move for Blair Grills? For 5th place? No, he can't do it.
We've got 2 Alpha Tauris going side by side, and Mr. John eases Mr. Chiapelli through. So the 2 Misters doing battle, but it's the Mr. Chiapelli that comes out on top. It's like Mr. Men here in TGP2, but it's Mr. Chiapelli that goes through and up into 9th place.
And a vote in the AlphaTauri as well. It was, so it took me half a season to notice that. Yeah, that's some nice symmetry going on there. But Jack Pearson then continues to lead. Bossman Sean closing in half a second so far on this lap. It's of course that middle sector with those twisty left right corners where Bossman Sean really seems to make a lot of ground.
Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. And he's really going to start reeling him in as we watch Red LMR right now on the back of Blair Grills on his debut. Remember, recovered from a spin earlier on. It could have been so much more for Red LMR. Oh, ooh. That's close. That's about as close as you can get to running into the back of someone without doing so. So Red LMR then round this penultimate turn and into the final corner. You would think he's going to be close enough to send one down the inside of Blair Grills. The ERS so important around Hungary, and the DRS as well coming out of that final corner. He deploys the DRS and ERS, pulls alongside, and Dan, I'm going to get the textbook out because that's exactly what that was.
It was indeed. It was very, very easy for him, wasn't it? As Luca was very close to the back of Baz. Baz nearly dropped it coming out the final corner, and it allowed Luca to close right in, but he couldn't get the move done amazingly. As Mike Nguyen, look at that, here he is passing indecisive to get into 12th place. 12th place for Mike Nguyen. Well,
he might still get a point, but it's going to take some effort, even for Chiapelli at this rate, to get a handful of points. He's maybe going to get a couple at this rate. You know, because the problem is
under the Joe Sayer point system, I think he'll pick about 5 or 6 at this rate. I think.
Yeah.
But still, nothing like he would have been imagining coming into this race.
That pesky Joe Sayer point system, it gets me every time. What's it? What? Come on, what is that about? Anyway, Mr. Chiapelli running in 9th place at the minute. Baza just in front, and the problem for Luca is he might get Baza, but he won't get anyone after that because none of them have got penalties.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? At front, the gap is stabilised a little bit. Bossman Sean didn't close in that much at all, really, on this lap. There's only 3 laps to go now. Time is running out for Bossman Sean.
It sure is. I might run out of time, in fact. Run out of rubber, run out of time. We'll wait and see. But Baza, across the start-finish line again, he's just got no ERS left. He's nowhere near close enough to making a move on Dom Smith. And at the minute, between these 3, it's a bit of a stalemate. And there's no sign of a move being made. Alex Zaffro on the fringes of the points, by the way, attacking Mr. John pretty soon. Maybe a point in this for Alex Zaffro.
Well, Dom said to me earlier that he always seems to end up in a battle with Bazda, and that is exactly what seems to be happening now all of a sudden after 16 laps in this race. Because Bazda, as you say, is getting closer and closer, but Dom on those hard tyres is at this stage now where maybe Bazda on the mediums might be struggling perhaps a little bit more than Dom.
I tell you who else is getting closer and closer. Bossman Sean, within a second, within DRS activation on Jack Pearson. Well, if you just went and flicked the kettle on there, you better get scampering back towards your television, folks, because this is not over. Just when it looked to be stabilising, Jack Pearson has been reeled in by Bossman Sean. A late assault, you may say, coming from the Irishman as he looks to end that long tag that he's got attached to his name about being very quick but not been able to convert results. Well, today might just be the day he does convert a result. What do you think, Dan?
Well, it was mentioned yesterday, wasn't it, in the TGV1 commentary by Mike Nguyen and Dom where Bossman Sean has 25 poles, I believe it is, but only 4 wins. So it's a terrible conversion rate, but he couldn't make a 5 with 2 laps to go here. Yeah, well, his conversion rate is nothing like some of the rugby players I've seen kick for the 3 points. But he's going to have to try and convert on this occasion. And he goes a little bit wide. He's really pushing. That looked like a couple of times on that lap he might have potentially gathered a warning, but he's not done it. And here comes Bossman Sean, about to start the final lap of this TGP2 race. It's been a cracker. It's been all about the battles in the midfield up till now, but the
The race at the front has been just simmering in a pot, waiting to boil over. And on the final lap, it's about to reach that point, because into the final corner they come, and Bossman Sean is right behind Jack Pearson. He's opened up the DRS, and this is his final chance to make a move. Jack Pearson defends to the pit wall. Bossman Sean moves down the outside, surely moves through and into the lead of the race, round the outside. Bossman Sean takes the lead away from Jack Pearson on the final lap of the race. Jack down the inside, tries to come straight back through, but he is powerless. And Bossman Sean, the Irishman that's only ever converted 4 victories from 25 pole positions, he's not on pole today. Maybe that's the way for Bossman Sean, because he's through and up, and a chance to make it another win for that man. What a move from the Irishman.
It was a brilliant move, and then he managed to fend him off as well, didn't he, when Jack tried to come back on him at the next corner. Baz has got past Dom as well for 7th place, but he does have a 3-second penalty, so as long as Dom is staying there for this final lap, he will get the points.
Wow.
Position, in fact.
He's going to get that position, but what a result this is going to be for Bossman Sean if he can just keep it clean and tidy for 3 more corners. It looked like his chance had gone. It looked like he'd started to see the gap level out between he and Jack Pearson, but I think those medium tyres have finally cried enough for Jack Pearson, and it was enough for Bossman Sean to close in and overhaul. A wonderful last lap manoeuvre from the Irishman, and he has came home and delivered brilliantly here in Hungary with a last gap victory. He wins in Budapest. What a win for Bossman Sean. Jack Pearson second. Sam Hickman comes home third from last on the grid. What a performance from him. It was a quiet second half of the race, not so the first. Chris Johnson comes home in 4th, and it's going to be his Ferrari teammate Red LMR in 5th. Blair Grills will be 6th with Baza 7th, and Chiapelli is going to be 8th, but Dom Smith will beat those two on penalties.
Yep, he just got Baza as well there. Yeah, I think he pretty much let Chiapelli through as Chiapelli was coming right back on at the final lap there. Mike Noon then 10th. So 10th for Mike Noon, 9th for Luca, with Jack Pearson in 2nd. That's going to close the championship opportunity for him, you have to say.
Yeah, big wasted opportunity. Pole position, failed to convert it, and only 10th. 10th for Mike Noon, 9th for Luca Chiapelli. I mean, that's not championship form. Jack Pearson, though, he'll be gutted. He's not won the race, and his chance to really slam home the championship advantage, or slice into that lead, has disappeared somewhat with Bossman Sean winning. But, you know, when he looks at it, when he goes home tonight, I think he'll be relatively happy to have taken quite a chunk out it. But, you know, when you lose in the last lap, it's pretty hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. As driver of the day very rightly goes to Sam Hickey. And I have to say, I hope we get to see an onboard of his starts, because I really would love to know how he got from the back to 9th within literally a corner, because the safety car was out very quickly, wasn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't think that was possible. So that's why I want to see it so badly. But well done to that man there. Sometimes a little bit of criticism goes his way because he doesn't convert the results. But today, he's answered those critics, and I'm one of them. What a performance from Bossman Sean. Takes the victory in some style. The Irishman happy, and there'll be a party in Dublin tonight. Socially distant, of course, Dan.
Absolutely, yeah, but I guess they've got to do one more race first, so we can't get carried away just yet, of course, as the results there are now on your screen, and only 4 drivers, I think, escaping penalties. Yep,
certainly one of those tracks, isn't it, with the fast apexes. It's very easy to cut the corners, and that's exactly what so many of them did. But Bossman Sean was the master of the Hungaroring. He takes the victory with Jack Pearson in 2nd with that wonderful last lap manoeuvre round the outside into turn 1, reminiscent of that of Lewis Hamilton against Max Verstappen a couple of years ago. Sam Hickman, what can I say about this young lad? 19th up to 3rd on the podium, driver of the day without question. Chris Johnson and Red LMR line us 3rd for Ferrari and 4th and 5th. Blue Grills was 6th with Dom Smith 7th. Baza 8th and Luca Chiapelli 9th. Mike Noon was 10th with Mr. John 11th. Alex Zaffro 12th with Indecisive 13th. Sir Tom Penguin, Nell Jack, M Shep, Dark Shadow, Red Bull Kim, and Chris Thurgood complete the result from today's race. But we're off now to Spain. What do you make of that one, Dan?
We are indeed off to Spain, yes. We saw a chaotic race in Spain yesterday in TGP1, and hopefully we'll get more of the same here in TGP2 as just trying to figure out what the championship standings are going to look like after that race to see how much he has closed in, Jack Pearson, on his rival Luca Chiapelli. There's just a 5 points for Mike Nguyen, of course, for finishing in 10th place. The maximum score for Bossman Sean, of course, because not only did he win, he got the fastest lap as well in that race.
Wow, what a great result that is.
There we go. So, if my workings out are correct, right now we have it on Luca on 211 points. Jack Pearson is on 202. And then we have Mike Nguyen on 189. And Chris Johnson on 172, Sam Hickey on 153. So the gap's being closed to 9 points now at the front between Luca and Jack Pearson.
Yeah, and Mike Nguyen a little bit distant, you could almost say, after that. Plenty of time to make it up, but he'll be kicking himself. That pole position really not resulting in anything like what he wanted. Only 5 points coming away from that race. But we're off to Spain next, and Dom didn't need to pay the travel expenses for us to travel here because we were here last night. I spent this morning in the hospital after a big crash at turn 9, but thankfully, all well. I'm out of hospital, and I now have had time to come back to the paddock and join in the festivities in the commentary box. But I mean, last night, Dan, I was one of them, and there was plenty coming a cropper over the crest of that hill at turn 9 and into the gravel trap, and in my case, the barrier.
There was, yeah, and in fact, it was your instance that sort of indirectly led to me then getting a drive-through penalty for the.
So you're blaming me. So you're blaming me.
I'm not necessarily blaming you for it, but if you hadn't crashed at that point, I would not have pitted at that point and got caught out embarrassingly. So I have to say it was ultimately, obviously, my fault of getting that drive-through, and I was hoping for a really good result around Spain as well. Felt like I had the pace. I was battling well with Matt Tibos at the front, but as soon as that drive-through came through, that was it. That was it for me.
Yeah. I thought we were going to have an argument in the commentary box there, but we don't quite. No, we'd never have that between myself and Dan the man. I love those Scouse tones.
At least someone does.
Well, at least I hope some people like the Scottish accent out there, shall we say. But anyway, here we go. We're off to Spain, Circuit de Catalunya. What's your overall feeling of this track, Dan? First to drive and then to spectate a race.
Well, I was never really much of a fan of this track, really, just in real life in terms of watching Formula One. I mean, there's not really been many classic races around here, as they over the years, but
Nope.
I've never really enjoyed driving it either until this game. I think it's because these cars are just so good in the corners these days that it's actually really quite fun to drive this track. And apart from, I have to say, the awful chicane at the final sector, I don't think there's any need for it to be there these days. It's not necessary anymore.
No. Well, Dan, we roasted Vietnam, so if you want to roast that when we do a hot lap around here, there's absolutely no problem. I mean that was a warm reception we got for that one, so I mean, if we want, we can do that. Let's roast it. But no,
if you want, yeah.
Generally, the circuit is okay, isn't it? It's just that final sector of the lap that was brought in to aid overtaking, and it just doesn't. It really does it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's not directly similar, but if you look at the final corner in Portimao, it's quite similar to what the old style used to be in Catalunya. So I don't see any reason why you can't go back to how it was, but I think that's going to happen, is it? Of course, I assume on the next F1 game, it'll have the small little adjustments at turn 10, which we'll see at the Spanish Grand Prix this year.
Yeah, and from what I've seen from that adjustment they've made at turn 10, it appears to be a lot more of a sweeping corner, which for me I don't really understand, because it makes it a shallower braking zone and makes overtaking even more difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like how it used to be before they changed it the year that they added the chicane. But it's just that it's also still going to have the chicane at the end of the lap as well. So yeah, I have to say I'm not entirely sure how well that's going to work, but I suppose we'll find out in a few months' time, and hopefully with some decent crowds as well, which would be nice to see. We've certainly got crowds in the virtual world, as we can see here as the drivers coming out on their outlaps around this circuit.
Yeah, what I'd do to be a virtual spectator, eh? Would be great, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
So let's have a look then at some of the cars out on track. Bossman Sean cruising round at the minute, running over a bollard that someone's already managed to displace from its position. The marshals won't be too happy about that one. But
is that the traditional turn 10 bollard?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the one that always gets knocked off. I don't know why they bother putting it there.
Yeah, take it down, virtual marshals, not needed. Anyway, final corner, Bossman Sean about to start a flying lap round this Circuit de Catalunya. We missed out on one of these hot laps last time out in Hungary, but we'll take one here. Long start finish straight, Dan, down to turn 1, best spot for overtaking, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, with that big run and getting DRS, and then got this awesome turn 3, which you can do flat out when you're pushing on a quali lap, and then you have to be hard on the brakes then for this sweeping turn 4. The famous Hamilton-Rosberg corner, of course. Bossman Sean very nearly dropped it.
Yeah,
as he makes his way into turn 5.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I agree with what you said at the top of the stream about this circuit. I mean, the first sector is improved so much now. It's so much more enjoyable because of the speed of the cars. It's not a chore and a struggle to get it through some of these corners. And look at this. This is another example, isn't it? Turn 9. Fly through there. Not even a struggle to go flat out. And it just makes it a lot more of an enjoyable rollercoaster ride. But then it's the final sector that gets you a little bit. It's just a bit bumpy, a bit awkward.
And Mike Noon is out to turn 9. He's crashed to turn 9, Mike Noon.
Welcome to the club, Mike Noon. You've done a me. You're off at turn 9 and out of qualifying. So his awful evening goes from bad to worse, Dan. Disaster.
Wow. So he's going to start at the very back, Mike Noon. That's unbelievable. As you say, yeah. We did see quite a few drivers lose at that corner yesterday. You were one of them, as you say. Mike Noon has joined the party in the hedge at that turn 9 wall. Unbelievable. What a terrible, terrible night so far then for Mike Noon.
Yeah, disaster for Mike Noon. We'll find that opportunity to discuss the final sector when we go on board with someone. But, I mean, just continuing on, but what we were saying, the first 2 sectors, an improvement because of the car, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Alex Afro, sorry, Dan. Big moment going through turns 2 and 3 there. Just about picks the car back up before it gets spat into the wall. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable when you can go through the corners a little bit quicker with a little bit more speed and a little less braking. But of course, that also does mean that you do run the risk of making a far bigger mistake, I suppose, which can easily be done, as Alex Afro just done there.
Yeah.
And he's now just invalidated his lap as well.
I'm having a look at Dom Smith now in the middle sector. Just coming out of that final sector now. So let's go back to that final sector. It's just awkward, bumpy, not very. It's not fun, is it?
Yeah, the whole thing's just a bit clumsy, really, isn't it? You've got the first part where you have to avoid the curb, and then there's the final, there's the chicane here. Just so clumsy, slow as you like. Try and get a good exit. And then around this sweeping final corner, which is quite fun, but not as fun as it used to be, as Dom crosses the line. 116.8 goes into 4th place. But yeah, I mean, the entire lap really can, it's make or break at that final chicane, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just not required, is it? It's just a nice sweeping downhill right-hander that goes in sync with the rest of the lap up to the end of the second sector there. Is all you need, isn't it? Just a nice downhill, just like it was in the old days, without the chicane. And you've got the same old Catalunya that we used to not love, but, accept.
Yeah, I totally agree. And perhaps the cars would then, of course, be able to get at least still a run on the driver with the DRS down the main straight. Yeah,
and especially with the new rules and less start air coming in 2022, you'd think it would make it even more possible. So, if you're listening, FIA, get it changed. But we're going to have a look at some of the action now. You've got 12 minutes to go. Chris on top in the minute, 1:16.3, with Bossman Sean second on a 1:16.5. Where Grill's third, 1:16.7 at the moment. Still waiting on a lap time from Jack Pearson at the minute. Still waiting on Sam Hickman delivering an effort as well. And of course, the big story in the opening minutes of qualifying, Mike Noon losing it through turn 9. And that's something else I wanted to discuss with you about as Sam Hickman goes on an out lap. The rear end around here, it's difficult to find a setup that keeps it sticking and stops it from sliding, and that's what catches out so many people up at turn 9, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The car is just so unstable. It's just at the point, really, isn't it, where you hit the curb as you complete the corner at turn 9. It's very easy for the car to just spin and fall away from you, as it actually nearly happened to Chris Johnson on this lap, but he managed to avoid it. He's come around the final corner now, Chris Johnson, and he goes into third place on a 1:16.7. I think Jack Pearson may have invalidated his first lap, which is why he hasn't got a time on the board yet. He's back out again.
Yeah, he ran wide, I think, on the exit of turn 6, I think it was. So here is Chris Thurgood then, starting a flying lap then. The man that's currently quickest of all the drivers thus far with a 1:16.3. He heads down to turn 1. The man I always ask for advice on stocks and shares, and the man that never delivers on that advice. He just completely blanks me. So there you go, Chris Thurgood, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be too complimentary about his lap as a result. No, I'm only joking. Of course I'm going to be complimentary about the North Korean driver. He's not actually North Korean, by the way, but he's on a lap nonetheless, and he's on pole at the minute, and he's chasing another quick lap time, Dan, as he makes his way down the hill into this difficult left-hander. It's so difficult to spot the braking point here. It's easy to run wide and get onto the gravel. It's so easy to clip the inside curb, but it sends you spinning, doesn't it? And he's now invalidated.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do what he done there as well on that curb. If you just run a bit too wide, it can very quickly turn into an invalidation. There's such a fine line through that corner to get it right and to just avoid getting the invalidation. Chris, at least he's still on pole though for the time being, although drivers are improving, of course, at this moment in time. Bossman Sean though in second place, he's also invalidated his second run.
Yeah, we've got Sam. Oh, Jack Pearson been blocked there, I think, by Alex Zaffro. Didn't quite get out of the way in the most ideal way when he was on his latest lap, but Sam Hickman, by the way, in the final couple of corners, coming to the end of his first full lap. It's going to be a lap time on the board at last for that man. Is it going to be enough to put him up to the front? This will be pole, in fact, and by quite a distance, 0.8 of a second. Sam Hickman puts his car on pole, and a marker has been laid down here in qualifying by that youngster.
How about that, as Lucas come around the final corner, still on the medium tyres, and he goes second on a 1:16.2, so that's still, well, it's over half a second from Sam, although, as I say, Luca is on still the medium tyres. He's done 2 runs on the mediums.
Yeah, that's the most serious couple of lap times we've seen yet, because obviously Giapelli without the mediums would be thereabouts with Sam Hickman, you would think. So mid-15s, we're starting to get there now. It was a bit of a slow start with Chris Thurgood in the front with, let's be honest, not the most spectacular 1:16.3. I mean, what was pole yesterday in TGP1, for example?
Well, I mean, Softy done an incredible 14.0, didn't he? And then I think second place was a 14.3 or a 14.4, and then all the actual sort of human beings were got into the 1:14.7, I think I did, and then it was around about that pace for the rest of the guys as well, a bit further behind. So late high 1:14s would be a decent lap around here, I suppose, for certainly TGP1 pace. It's almost like Softy is in TGP0 sometimes. Yeah, it sure is.
You would expect, though, that some of these guys, going by the pattern we've seen this season, the likes of Jack Pearson, get him in TGP1, Dom, has been doing lap times similar to that of maybe what you would do, maybe just a little bit, 2 or 3, 4 tenths slower, maybe a 15.1, 15.0. So would it be fair to expect that maybe a low 15 might be something around pole position here today?
I think, yeah. Ultimately, I suspect, yeah, that would be a lap time that we would be expecting to see. But of course, to do that, you have to try and not cut the track, which Jack has done twice so far as he's coming out. Maybe third time lucky for Jack Pearson.
Do you think there's a little bit of pressure on Jack Pearson? Maybe the fact that he's seen one of his rivals, Mike Noon, in the wall, and he's just trying a little bit too hard to deliver that lap time, Dan, to try and build a further lead in the championship. Well, build a gap over him in the championship. He's still not ahead of Luca, of course.
Yeah, I suppose the pressure might be building up, mightn't it? And maybe Mike Noon, of course, now that he's cast out the session, he'll be spectating this session only, and I'm sure he'll be watching Jack Pearson very closely, and maybe just I don't know, I wouldn't say trying to put him off or anything, but maybe just playing a bit of mind games, perhaps.
Yeah, of course, as Chris Thurgood starts another lap in that Williams racing car through turns 1 and 2 and now 3. It looks like the front end's just washing a little bit on him as he makes his way down into turn 4 now, and he's 1/10 down on his best lap time thus far as Chris Thurgood, as he moves out to the left hand side, right over to the curb on the left, then over to the right to improve the turn-in for this left-hander, and then sweeping down the hill, take the shortest route, hug the inside like your favourite granny, then try and thread the eye of the needle through here, really, because it's so difficult to go wide or turn in too early and get a corner cut like he did last time. Oh, that's big. That's big. But luckily for Chris, and perhaps skillfully, he lines his car up flush with the barrier and ensures he doesn't take any serious damage. Wow.
Lucky boy there. Matt Tibos done something very similar yesterday as well and just managed to avoid a very similar incident there for Chris Thurgood. But I think it wasn't a great first sector, was it? But I suspect he would have probably ultimately improved on that lap, given that he invalidated last time round. But back into the pits he comes, and he'll have to go again.
He will. He's third at the minute, though. He's still in the lofty heights of P3 with that 1 minute 16.3 as I start rhyming.
As Chris Johnson goes fifth, but I think Bossman Sean's about to improve here, Andy.
Yeah, I'm picking him up right now. He's in the final corner, Bossman Sean, up towards the line. What's it going to be for the Alfa Romeo driver? The winner last time out. It's enough to put him on the front row, but he's still some 4/10 away from that effort from Sam Hickman. I've got to say, I'm surprised. I thought the drivers would have dipped well into the 15s by now, but it's only Sam Hickman that's done it so far, and no one has been able to get near him. Jack Pearson might, though. He's out there and he's in the final sector. Let's see what he can do in that Mercedes car. Second to Bossman Sean last time out. Will he be second to anyone this time? Nope. He goes quickest of all. 1 minute 15.597. Half a tenth quicker than Jack Hickey. So here we go. Jack Hickey, Sam Hickey.
Excellent lap for Jack then. Yes, he takes pole and he will be able to get one more lap in once he gets to the pits and gets another fresh set of tyres on. I assume he has the tyres for it. He will, yeah. Probably, if he's gone for softer tyre choices with the 4 soft tyres available, 4 sets for the qualifying session.
Yep, so Jack Pearson shows his hand in qualifying. It's taken him quite a time. He's obviously been cutting a few corners, which could be key, of course, come the race. We know Jack Pearson used to be horrendous with time penalties. He's cut that out of his game this season, hasn't he? Not fully, but to an acceptable level, to a championship competing level, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's of course it's such an important thing to do, isn't it? And oh my goodness me, Indecisive just had a huge accident at turn 2. I think he lost the car on the curb, and amazingly it didn't destroy his car. He did go flying up into the air, but he has not destroyed his vehicle, and he might still be able to get it back if he's lucky enough for one final run. That
Alfa Romeo must be made of stern stuff. But maybe an indecisive moment into turn 1 or 2 from Indecisive has seen him land himself in the barrier. So he's off turn 2. Jack Pearson pits. I think he's slightly indecisive as to whether or not he wants to continue, because he's sitting in the gravel trap right now. So I'm not sure, maybe if he thinks maybe that's his qualifying over, maybe he doesn't have tyres, or maybe, there we go, he's moving again. So strange moment there. Yeah. Never a dull moment in TGP2, but thankfully Indecisive has decided to go back to the pits. Yeah, I'll cut those ones out now, shall I? I'm laughing at my own jokes here, for goodness sake. Anyway, Sam Hickman, 3 minutes to go in qualifying, about to start a flying lap. Half a tenth to find. Can he find it, Dan? Well, well, I mean, I was going to say it's only half a tenth, but you know, if that's the maximum that Sam feels he can achieve, then perhaps he can't find it. But maybe he can. Maybe he's been saving it all up for this one big final run at the end of the session. He's going to have a Williams to contend with anytime soon, I imagine. If the Williams, although the Williams is now starting to pick up speed, so he might just avoid it. But some very good laps so far. Yeah, nice and tidy through turn 3. Yeah, I was going to say, he looked really on the edge through turns 1 and 2, didn't he? And he's finding time, almost 3/4 of a tenth. He's in that range to get ahead of Jack Pearson, but you just feel he needs even more, because you just feel Jack Pearson's going to have something in the pocket for that final lap. Sam Hickman using all the road and some more as he makes his way through the middle sector. Thread the eye of the needle, left-hand side, then, oh, that's perfect for Sam Hickman. This is looking really tidy, using a bit of comfort time, a bit of a moment. Oh, there's a bit of a moment. He went for it, and he's now got the TRS open, and he's half a second up. This is impressive from Hickman, but he's got a little bit slidey coming out of the turn 10 hairpin, but he keeps it all together, and this should be a pretty tidy lap. Now just a fiddly bit at the end, that little tricky chicane, a little bit away from the apex, but he's looking tidy enough, and this should be well into the low 15s, perhaps even more. He's about to lay a marker down to Jack Pearson here. It's a 15.4. Big improvement from Hickman. He perhaps would have been looking for more, though, giving his effort up to the second sector, Dan.
Yeah, he nailed the second sector. I think it was not a perfect final sector, though. He got a bit of oversteer, then he got a bit of a twitch on at the exit of turn 10, and I'm not sure he had the perfect run through the chicane either. But I think he'll take it. He will take that lap, and he was flat through Campster as well at turn 9. I had the telemetry on. He went flat through there, and he was 3/10 up on Jack Pearson's lap at that stage at the second sector, and has ended up about what, just 2.5 tenths ultimately?
1.5. Well, nearly 2 tenths, just under 2. So, well, 2.5 tenths up on his best, yeah, but only a tenth, nearly 2 tenths on his own, on Jack Pearson. So Jack Pearson on outlap at the minute. It does appear like these are the only 2 people in the fight for pole position at the minute, but of course Giapelli's on an outlap still. His best time is on the medium, so exactly, we have to remember he's probably the other one that has got a real opportunity here as Jack Pearson starts his flying lap. Let's see what he's got in his pocket to try and deny Sam Hickman pole position.
Red LMR's just coming through as well, and he can only manage 8th place on that lap. That'll probably be his final lap indeed then, as Jack Pearson. Let's see what this first sector's going to be for Jack Pearson. Is it going to be an improvement? It is, but only just.
Almost a tenth of a second, but it's enough at the minute. If he keeps it ticking over, a couple of tenths, it will be enough to do it. It will be tight though, as he now...
Bossman Sean's off at turn 9, and he was on a flying lap as well, and that's it. Game over for Bossman Sean.
Jack Pearson will be hoping that car will be cleared out of the way as he gets there now, and he looks tidier through turn 9 as Bossman Sean scoots out the way. And what's it like through the second sector? It's good for Jack Pearson.
49.2. So Sam Hickey was a 49.1, but he did not have an ideal final sector.
Jack Pearson does look to be having an ideal final sector though, and he's putting all the dots together, and he's looking to dot it all together for a pole position here through the final chicane. That's tidy, a little bit wide for the second part, slowing the throttle, but I still think this should be enough to take back pole position. Jack Pearson for the line, and it is by 2 tenths of a second. Jack Pearson on top, ahead of Sam Hickman in second, but where is Luca Giapelli?
49.5 middle sector, so he's a bit way off, you have to say, Jack and Sam.
Yeah, 3 to 4 tenths off both drivers, so it needs to be a wild final sector to get near them. It should be enough to get up into 3rd place for Luca Giapelli. What can he do? It would need to be absolutely unbelievable in the final sector, and that final chicane is far from unbelievable, and he's coming round the final corner, and it might not even be enough for 3rd place for Giapelli, and he slows down. He backs out. He's going to go for the mediums for 6th.
He's going to go for the mediums, yeah. Well, so a smart move perhaps there by Luca at the end of the lap. Realised it wasn't looking like a big improvement in terms of possibly getting on pole, and will decide and elect to start in 6th place on the medium tyres. Interesting stuff.
I'm not too sure what the weather forecast is, but...
I believe it's a dry race. I'm told it's a dry race.
Okay, well there you go then. Look at Giapelli sacrificing what I would say was maybe 2 or 3 positions on the grid, probably 3. No, probably 2 actually, I don't know, 2 or 3 positions anyway for a lower grid position, but starting on the medium tyre. Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, ask me after lap 1 or lap 2, because of course if we get a safety car, then it throws it all out the window for him, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll come back to that one in a moment. Here is the grid then for the Spanish Grand Prix. Round number 14 of this championship. Jack Pearson is on pole position, 2nd on the grid last time out, 2nd in the race, but he's on pole here in Spain. A 10th clear of Sam Hickman, who put in a really strong effort. They were miles clear of anyone else. Chris Thurgood was 3rd with that 16.0. Chris Johnson 4th for Ferrari on a 16.1. Then Bossman Sean, the winner last time out, in 5th. Look at Giapelli on mediums, of course, as you can see in the graphic. 16.2 is 6th. You still think he was a threat. Dom Smith starts from 7th. LMR starts 8th, but Blair Girls 9th. Baza is 10th. Sir Tom Penguin 11th. That's a good effort from him. Neil Jack 12th. Zafro 13th. Red Bull Kim, M-Ship, Mr. John, and then I think it was Indecisive. But yeah, just going back to what we were saying there, Dan. Does it then make it a bit of a bad decision if we do end up with a safety car? Because we know notoriously we do get safety cars.
Yeah, I mean, if we get a safety car, he might be in a bit of trouble. I suppose we could then switch the hards, and this is a track really where the hard tyres are on lap 1. If there is a safety car on lap 1, going to the hard tyres is not necessarily the end of the world compared to some other tracks. So it might not be total disaster if you get an early safety car, but it's certainly a risk. It's certainly a risk, and of course it could pay off wonderfully for him.
Yeah, it's a risk run, no doubt, for the championship leader, a man that you maybe wouldn't associate with risk at this stage. Maybe it'd be more ideal to try and just keep using that, keep holding that gap, damage limitation. But I suppose it might still be too early for that kind of approach to the championship. We'll have to wait and see. But we are ready here in Spain, in Barcelona, for round number 14 of the championship. It's Jack Pearson on pole. It's Sam Hickman alongside. It's the longest run in the calendar to turn one. Who'll get there first? We'll find out as the lights go out. Jack Pearson leads from pole. Sam Hickman alongside. We've got Chris Johnson making a move down the outside. But it looks like Jack Pearson is going to hold that lead quite well. And Chris Thurgood now up at the second place. Hickman just holds on. He breaks that a little bit later. It's all clean and tidy so far as Jack Pearson leads the way with Sam Hickman second and Chris Thurgood third, with Chris Johnson in fourth as they make their way down to where the Mercedes crashed. No such thing this time. It's Jack Pearson holding that lead and holding it well.
So it's as you were then for the top six in terms of position. Mike Noon's got himself up into 12th. He's had a brilliant start from the back, which he needed to have, of course. Bit of contact there between Luca and Red LMR, but no damage done. So very good start for Jack Pearson, didn't he? He nailed it. This day good, tried to get ahead of Sam Hickey, but Sam Hickey managed to get back at him. And he is still right behind Jack. And you're going to call out the race.
We've got Blair Grills off already, and this could derail Luca Chiapelli immediately. Virtual safety car deployed, and that will derail him immediately. They're all going to have to come in, and he will have to go to the hard compound.
Well, I mean, this is a very similar situation as to what we had yesterday, although that was on lap 3 of the race. So will the drivers decide to make a pit stop now at this stage? The virtual safety car could end very quickly, of course. We were quite fortunate yesterday that the VSC lasted the entire duration while drivers were in the pit lane. As long as you didn't get a drive-through penalty at the end of it. But Jack Pearson stays out.
Sam Hickman stays out. Chris Thurgood stays out.
They're all staying out.
I thought someone would bail for hards, and Baza is the man that does. So Baza into the pits. I'm glad someone tried it, because I thought we were going to get a bit of a stalemate. And there we go. Baza in to the pit lane, and we're still under VSC. So this could be an inspired move, and he does go for the hard compound.
Front wing, though. And he is changing his front wing, so maybe he had a bit of contact as well. So that's going to cost him a bit of time. And we're back underway as he's just exiting the pit lane.
He's exiting now, so he's back out on the hard compound tire. Oh, it's such a shame that no one else thought to go in onto the hard compound and run to the end. I think would you have done that, Dan? What would you have done?
To lap 1 of the race,
to hards though,
sure.
to hards.
If I was down towards the back, I actually think I would have probably gone for it. Yeah, if I was up at the front, perhaps not.
Okay.
But, perhaps a wasted opportunity for if you're at the back, towards the back there, I think.
Yeah, a chance for a big day and a big haul of points disappeared, perhaps for some of the drivers. And in the end, we continue on our way with Jack Pearson in the lead, Sam Hickman in second. It's Chris Johnson third it's Chris Thurgood third, Chris Johnson in fourth. The two Chrissies running pretty well. This has probably been the best performance we've seen so far from Chris Thurgood in a race for quite some time, isn't it?
Let's just hope his internet doesn't disconnect.
Yeah, well, I'll say that. It'll disconnect in about 2 seconds' time. Click of the fingers. No sign of it. Oh well. I tried it because it was so likely that it could have happened, so I thought I'd try it. But anyway, Bossman Sean in 5th position behind Chris Johnson, going for a move, but not close enough at the minute. Look at Chiapelli, tucked right in behind on those medium compound tyres. I suppose he'll be quite relieved that no one came into the pits, and he himself didn't.
Yeah, I think he will, and I think he'll probably be glad that it wasn't a full safety car, I suspect.
Yeah, he will be. And it's just the status quo in that situation, isn't it? Probably helps him more than anything, because everyone's going at the same speed and no one in front is able to take advantage of being in the soft tyre. We've got someone off. We've also got Bossman Sean off and into the grass, and he's lost the position. He's running down the grass trying to rejoin Red Lamar and Mike Noon. Mike Noon already 7th? How?
yeah, he had a great start. He's going for 6th. He's going for 6th. That's it, 10.
And he's got 6th. It's side by side with Red Lamar, and he's through. Mike Noon, a man on a mission. Is he coming from the moon? Is he an alien? I'm not too sure, because that is an incredible start to this race from Mike Noon. He's up, 13 places, and he's into 6th place. Absolutely flying.
Magic Mike.
Yeah, Magic Mike.
Stuff.
Flying already on lap 4 out of 17. Jack Pearson still leads from Sam Hickman. We've got a move, and that is a move from Mr. Chiapelli down the inside of Chris Johnson, and a move that puts him up into 4th place.
4th place on the medium tyres. That's good going for Luca Chiapelli, isn't it? And he's just, 3 3 seconds, something like that, off the lead of Jack Pearson.
Going well. Bossman Sean, meanwhile, behind Red LMR, and he's back to his old ways, picking up time penalties. And he is in 8th place, chasing down Red LMR, the debutant who, to be fair to him, Dan, had that reasonable opening race, not without incident, of course. He had that moment, which could have potentially had him in the top 4, but he's putting in a solid performance here so far, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly good for a debut night, I would say, in TGP, and still on for possibly a solid result here, as we never know what's really going to happen, I suppose, over these next 13 laps, as Luca is 1.7 seconds behind Chris in 3rd place, so a bit of a gap, and that gap's extending a little bit more now for Luca, so can't close into Chris Thurgood just yet, and in fact Chris Johnson may decide to come back at him here at the DRS.
Red LMR just had a little bit of a moment there going into that chicane, and Bossman Sean took the place. He's not going to be close enough, Chiapelli. I think Chris Johnson's going to have to be more fearful of what's going on behind him, isn't he?
Yeah.
With Mike Noon gaining, but because of both got the DRS, there was no sign of a move being made, and it's a status quo between those three. But Sam Hickman out at the front of this race, 4.5 tenths, he's closed the gap in.
He has. He's closed right up, isn't he, on this lap, as Dom has decided to now pit as well to go onto the medium tyres, which ironically will have him close with Basil again, I imagine. Although actually perhaps maybe not. He's just going to come out ahead of him and Dark Shadow.
Yep, so Dom Smith gets ahead of Baza. Baza may have to make that stop, of course.
Oh, here comes Mike Noon. He's going for 5th place. That's a difficult place to go for the move, and Chris Thurgood manages to defend it.
Oh, goodness me, Mike Noon. He likes to go for it, doesn't he? It didn't work out, remember, back in Hungary. He went for it there, and he had to bail out last minute, and he'll be glad he did, because it could have resulted in another spin for one of the men in this championship battle. You do feel Mike Nooney needs to try and take points off Chiapelli and Jack today to try and make up for that race, but at the minute they're going to be outscoring him again as Chiapelli
and Chris
gets ahead of Chris, who is inevitably disconnected.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Bossman Sean, as he spun again, Bossman Sean is off, and this time he's managed to find the gravel trap, and he is going to lose even more positions. He's down into 12th place now, Bossman Sean.
Jack Pearson, your race
leader,
is, he's in the pits right now. He's away and gone, and he's on to a set of the medium compound tyre, and that will see him through to the end of this Grand Prix. Sam Hickman is going to go long, and he needs a lap of his life to stay in front as Mike Noon now gets ahead of the Chris Thurgood, who's of course lagged out of the race.
Can Jack Pearson come out ahead of Tom Penguin? It's crucial. He has to do this, and he has done it. That's very important for him. It would have been disastrous if he was behind him and had to get past him on the road, and that could help him keep his lead, perhaps.
Yeah, you're right. Vital move for Jack Pearson to ensure he stayed ahead of Tom Penguin. A bit of clean air in front of him to work in, with Sam Hickman yet to make that stop. Let's see when Sam does make that stop, but Jack Pearson is a little bit out of shape there on the entry to turn 6, but he's got it all under control at the minute. He runs in 9th position. Let's have a look at Sam Hickman. He's about to make that pit stop, you feel, on this very lap. Let's wait and see as he comes round the final couple of corners. Surely a pit stop cannot be far away.
Yeah, surely you will pit at this stage after just seeing Jack pit. Oh, he's gone a bit wide there at that final corner, but at the chicane, but here we go. Yeah, in he comes. Brake, do not go past over that speed limit, Sam, and he does not do so. Chiapelli then, on those medium tyres, will take the lead of this race.
So Chiapelli running long, of course. It could be quite a grandstand finish come the finale of this race. Don't go anywhere, folks. Chiapelli will be charging through on grippier, fresher, soft tyres as Sam Hickman gets the fun stint on the softs out the way and goes on to the long, hard grind on the mediums as Jack Pearson comes across the start-finish line, and he's going to be ahead of Sam Hickman. Not by a long way, but he's ahead. He's covered him off with that early pit stop.
He did indeed, and I think that really shows just how crucial it was that he beat Tom Penguin out there. He didn't have to try and get past him as Jack then keeps his net lead. Although, of course, now we wonder and we ask ourselves, what can Luca do on these medium tyres? How long will he go? And when he gets those soft tyres on, can he pull out a late race charge to catch up to Jack and Sam to possibly take the victory?
Yeah, we saw something similar, didn't we, in the last race from... Oh, and Shep's gone. He's off, and he's into the runoff area. Does he keep it out the wall? No, he does not. And Shep damages his car, but that'll be relief to Jack Pearson, who would have had the attentions of Sam Hickey on his tail if he didn't get past Shep quickly. But Shep's just jumped out of the way with a spin, and that'll please him greatly.
Yeah,
but yeah,
indeed, absolutely. Go on, tell you what you can say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just as before Shep went off, we kind of had that situation in the last race, didn't we? We had Bossman Sean on fresher tyres charging through at the end, and it worked on the final lap. So, yeah, we could well and truly have that coming from Chiapelli. He just needs to put a really good stint together, doesn't he?
Yeah, and of course, and this is of course the stage now where if he were to get some sort of virtual safety car again, that could actually benefit Luca Chiapelli if he's right beside the pit lane, if he else just dive in and make a stop.
Yep, it absolutely would. So he's kind of got that window to play with as well. So things looking good, encouraging at the minute for Mr. Chiapelli. Red Bull Kim's just come into the pit. We were watching a battle for 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th, right down in the lower reaches of the order. Action everywhere in TGP. And look at this for Mr. John. Down the inside he goes on past and he bang wheels. Mr. John pulling out late and getting through of the Welshman. Oh, that was late pulling out from Mr. John, but he got it done.
Yeah, he was bullying the Red Bull out the way there, wasn't he? And Red LMR might fancy a pounce as well. Can't make the move though, as Bossman Sean also looks on as Chris Johnson gets into 7th place ahead of Shepherd, who I think he still has that damage, doesn't he?
Yep, he does. As Bossman Sean really struggling there. He must have wing damaged Bossman Sean. No, he doesn't. He just had so much understeer as we continue to watch these guys squabble for position. Sam Hickey, interestingly, now down to half a second behind Jack Pearson. We'll be picking that up in a moment as we continue to watch Red LMR under real pressure from Bossman Sean down the inside into turn 10. He's going to brake later and he's going to be through. Some of these camera angles are absolutely awful, but we get there nonetheless, and through goes Bossman Sean up into 14th place and loses it immediately. Side by side they go, and he's back up ahead as Red LMR into P14 as we need to go and watch Jack Pearson and Sam Hickey, I think.
Yeah, Sam Hickey has closed right in as Mike Newman pits and comes out the pit lane. Is he going to beat Chris Johnson out the pit lane? It's going to be close. Chris Johnson just is ahead.
Yep, and Sam Hickey is turning the screw on Jack Pearson. He's getting closer and closer and closer. We've gone beyond the halfway point in this Spanish Grand Prix. It's been a slow burner. It's not been the action everywhere we had yesterday in TGP1 round here. But it's about to get very interesting. Sam Hickman, 3/10 off the back of Jack Pearson for the net lead of this race. But Mr. Chiapelli yet to make a pit stop, of course, on a medium compound tyre. About to go to softs. And I tell you what he would love, Dan, these two to squabble.
He would indeed, yeah. The Red LMR and Bassett are having a crazy battle at the minute. It's like 4 wide. There's Bossman Sean now gets ahead and Red LMR gets bumped to the back of the pack.
Yeah, it's action everywhere. Look at it going on. It's crazy, isn't it, as they make their way up the hill through Campsa, and we're now on board with Bossman Sean with one of these stupid camera angles where you can see absolutely nothing, but down into the braking zone. Oh, look how close that is. Incredible. But it looks like it's going to remain as they were with Baz at 12.
And Sam Hickey's closing in on Jack Pearson here, Andy, for the lead.
Oh, here he comes, Sam Hickman down the inside into turn 1, and he's clear and through and up into 2nd place. That could be the net lead. Jack Pearson's going to try and come straight back at him. Almost runs into the back of the Haas car, and to use a phrase that Mike Noon used last night, he's almost firing up the cylinders for him. And Sam Hickey is through and up into what is going to be a net lead of this race, but they just don't want to squabble right now, and maybe that's why Jack Pearson didn't squabble with Sam Hickman, because he doesn't want to be prey to Chiapelli later on.
Yeah, I think Luca would have quite liked it if Sam and Jack were battling for quite a long time there, but you get the feeling that Sam Hickey might start to just pull away now. He's had about 7/10 ahead at this stage. Jack, I know he'll have DRS now, but Luca, the gap's 12 seconds, so once Luca pits, he's going to, I think, is Mike Noon going to possibly get ahead of him as well. I think it's going to be quite difficult for Luca to certainly win this race at this stage now.
I think I'd be right in saying that Jack Hickman, his brother, didn't have a great night last night, but this could be turning into a fantastic night for the youngster, Sam Hickman, putting the strings together. And you know what, I agree with you. I think he is going to pull away from Jack Pearson, and he already is broken out with that DRS zone. Sam Hickman putting a fine race together and looking at what would be, I think, a 2nd win in TGP2 potentially, as Chiapelli has now been in the pits.
It would indeed, yes, after Canada early in the season. So let's see then, where is Luca going to come out the pit lane here? There goes Mike Noon. Chris Johnson's on his way as well. Is he going to beat Chris Johnson out the pit lane? Yep. I think he will. Yeah,
and this is the moment when I change it to gap to leader, because there's a chase on here, and with 7 laps to go, he's got an 8.2 gap to reel in and pass Sam Hickman. But catching him's one thing, passing's another in Formula 1. 8.5 seconds, Mike Noon, Jack Pearson, and then the prize, the lead of the race, and a battle with Sam Hickman. What do you think, Dan? If you're a betting man, is he going to get there?
At this stage, I would say no, because I think if he gets up to Jack Pearson, I think Jack Pearson will give him a real fight. Of course, they're very close in the championship now after the previous race. In fact, it is only 9 points separating them now between Jack and Luca. So Jack will give it a big go, I suspect, with a fight. And to be fair, Mike Noon needs to as well, because Mike Noon's losing ground, of course, tonight.
Yeah, he sure is. So Mike Noon really needs to fight this one with all he's worth. Has Jack Pearson got DRS, by the way? I don't think he has. No, he has. He has got DRS, so he's back within range of Sam Hickman. He's had a little bit of a wobble, hasn't he? Jack Pearson, when Sam Hickman got in front, didn't quite manage to stick within range, but he's got himself back within that range now as Chiapelli breezes past Mike Noon with about as much ease as you can ease past someone.
He's going to, yeah, well, I have to say, that was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be, but then again, he is on the soft tyres, isn't he, the fresh soft tyres. And of course, just notice, of course, Jack Pearson has that 3-second penalty as well. So Luca, he only needs to get within 3 seconds for Jack to get second place.
Mr. John just dropping out the points there with Red LMR getting in front and up into 12th position. But we need to go back to Chiapelli because he is the man on the move. He might not have a car near him at the minute, but he will at this rate. He's absolutely flying. Already only 7.3 off the lead. Oh, that looked a little bit wide from him though, but he just about held it together. And Mike Noon 8/10 off. He might just stay within DRS for another goal, Mike Noon, but I don't think he'll be close enough by the time they get there.
Well, at this rate, I think Luca is going to get Jack with that penalty being applied. Of course, that's as long as, of course, as Luca does not get a penalty himself, as his teammate gets a penalty in 12th place.
Yep, and that would then mean that Chiapelli will repair some of the damage that he caused by not having a good result last time out, and re-extending his championship lead, not overall in terms of the week, and he sets the fastest lap of 1 minute 17.1. He's absolutely flying. He's lighting the timing screens up, and he's going to be set for a really strong result. It's certainly get ahead of Jack Pearson, as you say, as Chris Thurgood pulls alongside Dom Smith down the start-finish straight, and that should be easy pickings, and it is, and it's 6th place for Chris Thurgood, up ahead of Dom Smith and into the points, or further into the points.
It is, but Chris Thurgood did pick himself up a penalty on the chicane on that previous lap, so Dom is still in that 6th place at the time for the time being. As in fact, he's closing right back up on him, but he might have fancied having a go there into turn 4, but does not. Thinks better of it, and will, I assume, just try to stay within 3 seconds of Chris Thurgood.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. We've got yellow flags out there. That's one of the McLarens going slowly. That'll be Dark Shadow, I think. Down the start-finish straight. That's all there is. Not a serious issue. Meanwhile, let's go back to the front. Jack Pearson, 1.4 now off Sam Hickman. It does look like Hickey's got the pace on him, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Dark Shadow's got a puncher. I'm not sure how he's managed that, but he's got a left front puncher, Dark Shadow. He's going to have to do the entire lap with this puncher tyre now.
Yeah, he'll need to stay out of the way. He'll need to be careful, won't he? Well, I'll tell you why. He's done 12 laps in the softs, that's why.
Of course, yeah, no wonder. Oh dear, that's not good for Dark Shadow, is it? But thankfully, as Sam Hickey comes to pass him, he will ghost, of course, this lap to cars too.
Oh dear, what a disaster for Dark Shadow. He's tried a long stint on the softs and they've exploded, so he'll be on his way back to the pits. What a disaster that is. But Sam Hickman, 1.7 clear at the head of this race, and it's looking pretty good. Gap stabilising behind. Chiapelli not making the same inroads, is he?
Yeah, I wondered if he's gone a bit too hard on his tyres, but Jack Pearson's got another penalty. So at this rate, this will give second place to Luca Chiapelli. No matter, he doesn't have to get to 3 seconds anymore, because now he is second on the road. Well, on the ultimate result. Yeah,
of course, but it's looking very good for Sam Hickman for a second win of his TGP career. What a performance from this youngster. Turned up here and had pace from the very start, lit up the timing sheets early on in qualifying, and despite being pipped at the end of the timings by Jack Pearson, he's showing up to be the quickest driver on race pace by quite a bit. In fact, he's done very well. I'm impressed by this race performance.
I mean, he's really going to close in, I think, on Mike Noon certainly in the championship as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he will. And Mike Noon would not have been thinking about that, would he, going into tonight?
Well, no way. You would have been thinking he can get up to Chiapelli's pace, but looks like he's going to have Sam Hickey to worry about going into next week.
Yeah, he's going to have young Sam Hickman clipping his heels. I don't think he's quite ready for the TGP1 move, Sam Hickman, but in years to come, I think we could see him and his brother Jack racing together in that top tier, couldn't we?
Yeah, there's certainly every chance of it. I would suspect. Yeah, it would be the second pair of brothers, wouldn't it, to be in TGP1?
Would that be after Court and Isaac?
Oh, the third pair of brothers then to be in TGP1.
There you go.
Aidan
then.
And Alistair.
Aidan and Alistair, of course. So yeah, the brotherly love in TGP potentially, if Sam can join his brother in TGP1, but we'll wait and see if that comes to fruition. But he's certainly putting a fine statement out here, 2.2 clear of Jack Pearson, who of course has quite a few penalties. Luca Chiapelli in third. Let's go down the order then with that looking settled. Bossman Sean in ninth place, who's had a bit of a return to normality today, hasn't he, with in this race, with a bit of a few wacky spins and moments. He's chasing down Alex Zappro, who's having a good day in eighth.
Yeah, he is, but I was just thinking about that actually. You know, like yesterday in the TGP1 race around here, we saw so much incidents and drivers going off the road, and you have to say the majority of the drivers in this race have really been very, very clean and well behaved and not made many errors.
Yep, as Bossman Sean reaches past Alex Zappro, it's almost as if you didn't show the lap times, you didn't show the timing screens, you'd think this was the TGP1 race, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was very strange, that race yesterday, wasn't it? I wonder if there was maybe just the track was not rubbered in properly or something compared to this. That's the excuse the TGP1 drivers will make.
It is, as Bazak goes down the inside. Oh, that was close between he and Red LMR, who runs a little bit wide trying to give Baza space, and Baza sticks his nose up the inside and fires that Red Bull up into 11th place, just in the inside the points there. The Joe Sayer points system, of course, which you all know. Yep. I'm not a massive fan of.
Yes, I think it's to allow some of the drivers in this series of TGP2 to get a few extra points on the board, I suspect. I'm not entirely sure, but I imagine that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, and the incentive to have drivers not retiring, I suppose. Oh, I mean, yeah. Positive reasons. I get those reasons, and I like those reasons, but I feel like it doesn't punish those top drivers when they have a bad afternoon as much as maybe it should. That's my counter argument to it. But there's pros and cons, isn't there?
Yeah, I take your point there, certainly, but somebody who's going to pick up all the points in just half a lap's time, as long as he doesn't go and throw it off the road, looks like it's going to be Sam Hickey, and it looks like he's going to take his second TGP2 career win. And well, as you say, yesterday, his brother, Sam Hickey was in the wall, and around here, very early on in the race, Sam's going to come through to take the victory. Yeah,
Jack in the barrier, Sam, not such luck, well, much better luck this time round for Sam Hickman. He's past the point where Mika Hakkinen retired on the final lap, so there's going to be no jinx from the 2001 Spanish Grand Prix, and he's going to show his brother how it's done. Sam Hickman rounds the final corner here in Spain, and he takes the victory. It's Sam Hickman who wins in Spain. A fine performance, his second TGP2 victory. Jack Pearson second, who drops to third with Chiapelli climbing to second as a result of penalties. Mike Noon fourth, Chris Johnson fifth, Chris Thurgood sixth, Tom Smith, will he get ahead of them? I'm not too sure. He's dropped back quite a bit, hasn't he, in seventh, but it's Chris Johnson over the line fifth, Chris Thurgood sixth. It will be Tom Smith over the line seventh. Will he get ahead of any of those cars in front? Let's see. No. Bossman Sean 8th, Alex Zappro 9th, and Neil Jack 10th. But what a performance from Sam Hickman.
Brilliant stuff. Fully deserved that. And wow, after having to have that quali ban in Hungary, starting at the very back, what a night it suddenly developed into for him. Brilliant stuff. Yep.
Didn't look like it was going to be a promising night, starting from the back on a tight, twisty track with the Hungaroring. But he picked up a podium and driver of the day there. He's done more than pick up a podium here. He's picked up the 25 points and the race victory. A fine performance, and a young man with a good future in front of him. Will he be racing alongside his brother Jack in the future? I mean, I know Jack said a few weeks ago that when Sam joined the league that he was been teaching him. I think Sam needs to teach him how to race around Spain.
Yeah, certainly. I think you're absolutely right about that. Can't remember which corner it was that Jack crashed at yesterday, but there we go. Driver of the day is Mike Noon, who of course also, similarly to Sam in the previous race, Mike Noon also managed to fight his way through the field in that one.
Yep, and there it is. The celebrations commence for Sam Hickman on top of the podium for the Haas F1 team. He throws the trophy aloft in celebration. He might not be old enough for champagne, but who cares? He's drinking it anyway. He celebrates on the top step of the podium with a fine result. And of course, Luca Chiapelli with second and Jack Pearson with third. Luca Chiapelli, I think on reflection after that first race, he'll take having that points advantage, won't he?
He will indeed, yes, and ultimately he's of course extended his championship lead after that race with Jack getting a penalty.
He sure has, but there is the final results from the Spanish Grand Prix round 14 in the championship. Sam Hickman with his second win in TGP2. Mr. Chiapelli, solid, controlled, calm. It's the key to titles in TGP2. He's doing all of those things and he extends his lead after this race, not overall. Jack Pearson though in third, getting those gremlins with time penalties again, costing him dear. Mike Noon, fourth position for him after crashing in qualifying. That'll do, I suppose, but not the night he was looking for. Chris Johnson comes home in fifth with Chris Thurgood sixth. Dom Smith seventh, Alex Zaffro, he'll be delighted with that. That's P8 for him. Bossman Shaw ninth and Dale Jack rounding out the top 10. Red Lamar, he was 11th. 12th Baza, 13th Mr. John, 14th Sir Tom Penguin. Indecisive was next. He was indecisive in qualifying, not so in the race. 16th M. Shep, Red Bull Kim 17th, 18th Dark Shadow, and at the back, rounding off a terrible day for McLaren, was Blair Grills. But I've got to ask you, your driver of the day from the Spanish Grand Prix, Dan the Man.
I think you have to say Mike Noon, don't you? He managed to fight through the field and get a decent result in the end, despite the incident that he had in the qualifying session, of course, which came out of nowhere and was actually ultimately in the end one of the very few drivers who actually made a mistake at that turn 9 tonight. But I've got the championship standings here for the guys at the front, and we have Luca Chiapelli on 230 points after tonight. Jack Pearson is on 217, Mike Noon 201, and then Chris Johnson 182 and Sam Hickey 178. So again, it's another night where Chris Johnson and Sam Hickey have pulled back into it slightly, but Luca and Jack are really two guys out ahead now. Then you've got Mike sort of in the middle on 201 points after not a brilliant night for him, especially in Hungary.
Yep, not a great night for him, but a great night for the likes of Sam Hickman, for the likes of, well, I suppose, Jack Pearson. So he cuts the gap down on Luca Chiapelli after that one. But yeah, another great night of action. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you alongside me once again, Dan, for the action. Rounds number 15 and 16. They're coming fast, aren't they? Up next, Dan, are you aware which the next two circuits are?
Yeah, next week we've got Australia and Singapore next week. And Singapore will be in the daytime, I believe. Will be raced in the daytime.
Okay, well that'll be very interesting. Soft Cup, by the way, in TGP1 never won at either of those tracks. If he doesn't win next week, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to turn up in TGP2 and get a victory. Remember, folks, anything can happen in TGP, and it usually does. That's all from myself, Ginger Andy, and Dan the Man, who joined us tonight. Be sure to join us next week at the exact same time, Wednesday night at 7:10. Good night.